Guys, what's up? How's it going? It's John, Gamester81. I'm here with my good friend Jeff Whittenhagen. Welcome back to another Game Talk. In this episode, we want to talk about the Neo Geo, which I personally love. It's the Neo Geo AES, MVS, whatever you want to talk about. But there's a couple cool things going on with the Neo Geo. There's some flashcards coming out, or are out currently. They're with the Neo SD by Stone Age Gamer, right? And then Darksoft also has a Neo Geo kind of like flashcard, correct, Jeff?
Yeah, and I was sitting here cuddling up with some of my MVS cartridges over here while
nice.
you were doing the intro. I was over here like,
yeah.
But
very cool.
Yeah, there's a couple alternatives because like in a lot of the gaming communities, like the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, you have your Crix's EverDrives, and they're supported by Stone Age Gamer. And so Stone Age Gamer has the Neo SD, and I was like, oh, cool, we got our SD version. And then recently, I became aware of the Dark Side Neo Geo Multi-AES cartridge.
Okay.
And it's a little bit different. I think it's interesting. There's a pretty parallel compatibility to both, but it's worth talking about. And then there's also a little bit of a new Neo Geo console that was alluded to by SNK.
Yeah. So the Darksoft, it's like, well, first off, the Neo SD, these carts aren't cheap. And just like anything Neo Geo, when it comes to cartridges, they're not cheap. And I think a lot of the collectors understand that. I think it's kind of used to the expenses. Like, carts were expensive when they first came out. But having said that, still not cheap. $440, that's on like a 10% discount there currently, a sale. Now the Darksoft one is like $100 more than that, I believe, right? So
yeah, it's well over $500.
Yeah, so it's an investment for sure. Now I noticed reading the Darksoft website, they really push it as like a developer's kit, so you can actually, not necessarily develop games on it, but you can test your games on these things, which I guess would make sense, just like with any other flash cart. I would say with this, with Stone Age Gamer, in full disclosure, so I just want to be up there. Several years ago, Stone Age Gamer was a huge supporter of my show. I don't know if you remember this, Jeffrey, but they would send me products, and they actually had some ads on my channel years ago. So I'm familiar with Stone Age Gamer, but I will say this legitly: like, their product is top notch. Like, I love their flashcards. I'll say that. I'm not just saying that because
like they take Crix's stuff. Because Crix is, he's the creator, and he does release the cartridges on his website, but like Stone Age Gamer puts like a modern polish, puts it in nice cases, has manuals and SD cards and stickers, and it gives it a little bit better quality.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. So, but anyway, their product is high quality. It's not cheap, to be honest, but I'll say their product is quality, and I still, I like flashcards because they're convenient. You can play them on the actual hardware, which is nice. It's not emulation; it's actually played on the actual hardware. So a lot of people, I think, get confused. They think, these flashcards are emulated. No, it's not emulation. It's playing on the actual hardware. So
yeah, because in the end, a cartridge is data on a chip,
right? And
so what these flash cartridges do is allow that data to be stored on modern flash memory, and which is much larger than what was capable on the original systems. Right. And then it loads that through a program and just essentially has that data then readily available for the old school console.
Now with the Super Nintendo, for example, the SD to SNES, and notice they're coming out with a deluxe one.
My favorite.
There's actually ROMs now. People have like hacked, or if you want to call it that, enhanced, where they've increased the audio, made it better because, like you said, these ROM files are bigger. So it sounds like CD quality.
A unique brand new chipset that they created for the SD to SNES. It's called MSU1.
Right.
And it's really cool because you can play CD quality audio off the SD card on a real Super Nintendo. So imagine playing Rock and Roll Racing with the actual Rock and Roll soundtrack.
The actual rock, yeah. I was playing what is that, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, with like whole like hand drawn intro scenes like you'd see on like a Sega CD, but with better color, better graphics. But it's like blows my mind. I mean, the Road Blaster is another game that's like one of those games kind of like Dragon's Lair, where it's all animated and you have to hit certain things. Anyway, that's playable on the Super Nintendo now. So Really
Yeah.
cool. And what's awesome about the N64, not to go off too off tangent here because we're talking about Neo Geo, N64 you can actually play.
Flashcards, baby.
You can play disc drive games on it, which is cool, right?
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't normally be able to play, obviously, if you don't have a disc drive system for the N64, which is rare. So really cool. I mean, but back to the Neo Geo, if you had all the games on cart, obviously it costs much, much more than $440 or $550. So there's that. But having said that, I obviously prefer the cart. I prefer my collector, so I prefer to have the carts. But I think the flash carts are the next best thing. My opinion.
I mean, because the thing is so we mentioned, it's over $400 for the Neo SD.
Right.
The Darksoft is over $500. Well, like, one of the mid-range Neo Geo games is close to $400 or $500.
Metal Slug alone, I think, goes for that, right? For the AES.
Yeah, and even the cheaper ones back in the day, the ones that used to be like $60 are now well over $100.
Right. So
like. And I mean, as you were talking, I was like looking at my collection because it's literally right behind me here.
Right.
And I have been collecting them. I've gotten a lot of them from arcades and things. And
Sure.
like this whole bottom row is MVS that I have in shock boxes. And then above it is AES.
Right.
And then, I have a couple new ones. And I'm even adventuring into these ones that are right here, which are, they take bootleg Neo Geo MVS cartridges, and then they put games that were never released. Like I have Bang Bang Busters right here and Ghost Lop.
Bang Bang Busters sounds like a...
Those were never released on the cartridge.
That sounds like a dirty porn. Bang Bang Bros.
It does sound like a dirty porn.
I like it already.
or it could be like a Snow Brothers. Pretty awesome. But hopefully when I put it in, it just plays some dirty porn for.
Put it in.
John.
There you go. Like where are you going with this? Anyway,
put it in the slot. There we go.
No, I agree. Absolutely.
100% right.
Yeah.
So it's being more affordable for the,
it is.
The SD cards. And the other thing we got to mention, though, is that you can go on Chinese websites and get a
Multi-cart.
161 in one for like $80.
Right. Those games, though, I own one, and those games aren't perfectly emulated right. I mean, the audio's off a little bit. They'll have like 10 versions of Metal Slug that are slightly tweaked.
Yeah.
So it's not like true game, if that makes sense. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still worth getting, but if there's a choice, I think this is the ultimate best way to play. I'm still kicking myself for not getting a Neo Geo MVS wooden analog system back in the day when it came out. I can't find one of those anywhere. The MVS.
So the version that I have, I have an AES, and then I have the Omega Neo Geo console. And the guy who makes these for me is the guy who created the Omega. He was at Retro City Fest that we were both at this year.
Yeah.
And he was at Midwest Gaming Classic that I was at.
Okay.
And he literally likes to create things that I need to get from him that I don't have. Because I was pointing, I have a 161 in one, and then I have every other game that is not available on that available, so I can play everything.
Right.
However, these multi-carts make a hard bargain. It makes it tough for somebody like me, where it's like, man, I could have that one cartridge for $500 and then have a lot more space to display other collectibles. But I love the Neo Geo. Like, having those, like, they're giant, like, it's like a bookcase, like a bookshelf. It's super cool.
They're beasts of cartridges, that is for sure. So, you said they're coming out with a new console, Neo Geo. Correct? Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay, what's going on with that?
So, what we should talk about with that is what do we want to see out of it? Because, the Neo Geo Mini came out, and for connectivity purposes, it was pretty poor. It was bad.
Mm-hmm.
But like on the actual little handheld itself, everybody says that it's excellent. You're just playing on the little Neo Geo
the Gold
Mini arcade.
The Gold, you mean? Or on their arcade? Or what are you talking about? The Mini? The new one?
I'm talking about the Mini.
Okay.
So like the little screen that's on the Mini is excellent. But then when you put it on the TV, it's poor quality.
I see. It doesn't.
So first thing we need on a new SNK Neo Geo console is we need really good, especially if it's just the original Neo Geo, we need really good video quality.
Okay.
Bar none.
Sure.
Yeah. What I would like to see though is support beyond the MVS AES, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Like SNK has released a lot more games since, and if we could somehow get a more modern something on it to get newer games, like, you know, there's King of the Fighters has went well beyond what's available on the Neo Geo MVS AES.
Right.
Like, if SNK is doing a new console that can play even just a couple years extra down the line, that would be amazing. I
agree. That'd be really cool. I'm trying to think about my head. I'd love to see one of these for sure. I'd love it to play carts. It'd be cool if there was an SD card slot so you could play kind of like a flashcard, like we were talking about before, like, you know, play it through the hardware. That'd be really cool. You know, kind of like what Analog does.
So didn't SNK experiment with it with the gold that you mentioned, the little handheld that plugged into a case that looked like a Neo Geo? Like,
correct.
They had expansion cards, right?
Those were proprietary cards that you had to buy. I'm talking about like an SD card that you can actually put ROMs on and play. Kind of like Analog.
Oh, you want like a SD type deal.
Like Analog will do that with the new, like the Mega SG, for example. They'll have like a slot for where you can put the cards, SD card in. You know, I'd love it to be FPGA, so, you know, you can play other, potentially there could be other, what's the word I'm trying to think of, like other systems you could play on it, right?
Yeah, it would be able to accurately emulate.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is do you think SNK would actually do that, though? Because, like, Analog, all the other companies, they're not the company that owns it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, Analog's doing a Sega Genesis, but they're not Sega. This is SNK doing it, so I don't know if they're gonna promote piracy, for example.
That's
when
true.
It comes to that, like,
that's true.
But if they released cartridges, would you buy them? That's a question.
Depends on the price. If we're looking at $400 a piece, no. You know, if they're 40,
nobody could afford that, and nobody could back in the day either, which is why it was so niche and so expensive and collectible now.
Right.
That being said, if they had Neo Geo mini cartridges, say Nintendo Switch size cartridges,
sure, yeah,
and they did little Neo Geo like shock boxes, little mini ones that would fit it or something,
sure.
And you could buy them for $40 a pop.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. Yeah,
I mean, and they allow expansion for indie games.
Yeah, that'd be rad.
I'm just saying they could give the Switch a run for its money.
The Neo Geo joystick controller is probably one of my favorite home controllers, right, for any home console. I think anyway. I mean, it's just such a great controller, so I'd love to see.
I mean,
you know, a lot of people gave.
I even like the Neo Geo CD.
Right.
When they re-released it recently,
right,
they left out the micro switches, which it doesn't feel the same.
Sure.
But like that CD controller is excellent.
Yeah, I agree. The loading times were terrible on the CD, but.
Yeah.
No, but, you know, it's a lot of people gave the gold Neo Geo Gold system when that came out several years back crap because it wasn't great. But I'll tell you, the controller was great, and I think the idea of it being a handheld controller and docked into a big controller, I thought that it was not executed great, but it was a great idea, you know. So they've got to do something different, though. If they just do like a Neo Geo Mini that you just plug in, I don't know. I mean, how's that any different than the Neo Geo Mini they're doing now? You know, so it's got to be unique. It's got to be different. Now I saw your picture that you showed me. Your daughter was playing like it's a homemade like mini arcade for the Switch. That was really rad, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, so back during the second year of the Switch, on Amazon they had this little like balsa wood arcade thing, right?
Okay.
And I bought it a while ago. They also, with the Toki retro collector edition, like Rec Collector Edition, they released a balsa wood arcade. Well, as some of you know, I'm working on a Nintendo Switch collector book, and JP Switch Mania, who I'm working on because he's the ultimate collector, said, hey, there's this dude who does arcades that would be interested in doing a Switch arcade. And I was like, okay, well, we kind of have these balsa wood ones. And I reached out to the guy, and he's like, hey, give me art, because we already have the cover and everything created for the Switch collector. Yeah. And so, like, he sends me this mock-up, and this thing is, like, it's a legitimate arcade with the molding around it.
Yeah, that's great.
There's felt to hold the system, so like
wow.
when you put the system in the back of the arcade, there's actually felt, so it actually fits in snugly. There's actually 2 spots for the Joy-Cons on the arcade, and while you can't access the L and R buttons on the top, it like fits in there with like some rubber to hold everything in place.
That's awesome.
So like once you start, like for example, River City Ransom on the NES on the online thing, you can play 2 players on it once you start it, because you have to use the L and R buttons for start and select, but you can sit there and play. And it's just super cool to be able to take something and make it more arcade-like.
Yeah, sure.
And it offers something different because you still have the interconnectivity of all the Switch pieces and everything. And then you have the arcade experience on top of it. So, like, it just... And I was just like, I sent John a picture of my daughter's like laying down playing it with her legs up in the air like we used to play Nintendo back in the day.
Right.
And it was just like she was playing Minecraft out of course, because that's literally all she plays now. But it was super cool just to see like her getting that
cool.
Classic Nintendo and arcade experience.
Well, I like you can actually buy Neo Geo games on the eShop too, right? So very cool. No, I think it's a great idea. Do you know how much he charges for those or no?
I want to say it's close to $100,
okay.
So it's not like super cheap. But
the quality's
we can post a link in the description below, and if it's different, like you'll definitely see it in the description. We'll be like, hey, Jeff's crazy. It's less or it's way.
And you'll make up the difference then if it's more than that, correct?
Yeah, sure. We'll charge it to Gamester81.com.
Awesome, man. Well, good.
But yeah, like, and I just want to make sure that the price is right.
No, for sure. I'll put a link below.
My buddy,
absolutely,
so.
absolutely.
For sure.
Well, cool, bro. I appreciate it. Anything else you want to
add? I just think that the main thing we got to see out of a new Neo Geo console would be good video with no lag.
Right.
Like, if we have good HD Neo Geo in the end. Because if they just do a quick cash grab and put the mini connectivity onto a TV, it's going to be a miss. And nobody's going to... I agree. Like, it's just me a collector piece, and nobody's really going to play it. I want something that I can play. And that being said, that is a huge plus for this Dark Soft Neo Geo multi-AES cartridge. I have to read it off the screen. And the Neo SD. Yeah. Like, the main difference between the two, though, is that your Neo SD, it loads it off an SD card, right? Whereas this multi-cart, it actually can load 3 different games that you could instantly flip. Yeah,
that's cool.
So you can load, like Metal Slug and Samurai Showdown and King of the Fighters, and then you press a button, a shortcut button, you can flip between them.
Kind of like the arcade.
You get, like, that multi-AES arcade, which is super cool.
It says you can save the games, too, on the... I'm not sure if you can do that on the Flashcard or not, which is cool. Make your own save states.
Yeah, I mean, typically with all these Flash cartridges, it saves the latest game in flash memory. Right. So, like, say you load up, a game on like Captain Tom Day, and you load it. Well, the next time you go, you can just instantly start it. It saves it in flash memory. Cool. So this one's saving 3, which is
that's cool. Yeah, it's a different. So it's probably why it's a little bit more expensive too. Maybe, I don't know, but. Awesome.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And, in the end, though, like, who can complain about new cool stuff for the Neo Geo or new arcades?
Who thought we'd be talking about the new Neo Geo stuff, 20 years ago, right? Now, right? So who thought it'd be still relevant? Love it. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate it. Where can people find you?
HagensAlley.com is where you can find me. I got all my books. Once this summer, once that Switch book goes live, that stuff should just go kaboom and blow up. But and if y'all want a Neo Geo book, make it be known. You gotta make it
real quick, man. Let's talk about your Virtual Boy book too. While you're talking about books on this episode, just while we're on the so you did as a April Fool, you put some April Fools. Tell us about
it. So I did a on April Fools. I decided because all the time at conventions, wherever I go, people are like, "Oh, you should do a Virtual Boy book. It'd be like a little manual, and it'd be like tiny." And so, after last year's crazy, which was basically a Switch, I said I was going to do a complete Switch book last year, which was an April Fool's joke. I just did it on my website, and people freaked out. So I was like, you know what, this year I'm going to do a week-long Kickstarter campaign for a Virtual Boy book. And if people are crazy enough to back it, I'll make the book. I've already templated it at that point, and I had 100 pages because the Virtual Boy homebrew scene is massive.
Right.
Like, there's licensed games, there's Japanese games that were released only
Sure.
in Japan. There's unreleased games that have gotten a physical release. And then there's unreleased games that would be worth talking about, like crazy Donkey Kong Country 2 and stuff like that. And then there's the whole homebrew scene, which is like pretty crazy. So you add that, plus the console, plus collectibles, plus stories from backers, and I'm currently at 150 pages right now.
That's impressive. You know, I know they were going to come out with like a Mario Kart for the Virtual Boy, which would have been incredible. You know.
So the Mario Kart is a homebrew release.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, just like Hyper Fighting is Street Fighter 2. And that one has a whole crazy story behind it too, because it was like the guy could choose any game he wanted to release for the Virtual Boy, and he loved Street Fighter 2, so he did Street Fighter 2. And so like there's super interesting stories. There's a really big community behind the Virtual Boy. And a lot of them actually, like, without even really knowing my stuff, because they're into the Virtual Boy, they still supported the book, which was really interesting. I did so in a week-long campaign, it was like 400 and almost 450% funded, which is insane, because I did a tiny goal. Like, when I say 450% funded, it's not like I'm making tons and tons of money. I'm making enough to do a print run, a small print run. And so now at 450%, like, I start doubling page counts, and that was the stuff I did for stretch goals. Like, I'll make the book bigger, and people are like, well, how are you even doing 100 pages when there's like 10 games on the system? But the thing is that, you know, when you actually start making the artwork big and you start writing personal stories behind it, like, I actually got a Virtual Boy back in the day when Toys R Us and KB Toys were selling them for like $24. And I have my original console with the sticker with the red line through it written on there. Nice. Like, I never got rid of my stuff. Then there's stuff like this cartridge here on the screen. I'm trying to get my finger to point to it. There we go. Which is a Game Boy emulator that plays on the Virtual Boy in VR, and you can choose 4 games to put on it.
Wow.
So, like, I have Zelda Link to the Past, Mario Land 2 6 gold coins, Tetris.
And it'll play in 3D?
And it plays in 3D.
Wow. You have it? What's it called?
It's super. So, this one, let me see if I can not knock over the Neo Geo cartridges. This right
the Flash Boy?
Here. So this is...
What's it?
This is a Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
And that's what it's called. And it's literally a little Game Boy cartridge. And it's not Flash Boy, because Flash Boy is the emulator on the computer. This is something that a guy created, and through research of the book, I was able to find out that this existed. And you can choose whatever game you want to go on the cartridge. The 4th game, by the way, is Metroid 2.
Okay.
But you can choose whatever games you want, but he's like played them all, or if you mention a game, he'll try it out and see how it looks before he puts it on.
How much does that cost, if you don't mind me asking?
Because like it wasn't too expensive. I got this like 2 years ago. I want to say it was definitely like under $60.
That's cool. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet that what people do with the Virtual Boy. Oh yeah, I love the scene.
And so right there, that's what the Virtual Boy is going to entail. It's going to take a little bit, because normally when I go to a campaign, the book's already written. And this one, I didn't start writing it until it was funded. So I've already written all the licensed games. I mean, it's I'm used to writing 1,000 games on the Super Nintendo, so this will be pretty easy. But it's still a full book release. Still requires thousands of hours of editing, making sure everything's perfect. And it will hurt your eyes just like the Virtual Boy, because I'm doing black background with red text. If some of the viewers want to give some suggestions, one guy on the Kickstarter campaign said, "Can we have a pause screen in the book like we had when you played the Virtual Boy, where it's every 15 minutes it told you to take a break?"
You know what would be really cool? And I know Nintendo Power did this when the Virtual Boy came out, but do some pages in like 3D and then have those 3D glasses, and just have it.
Oh
That'd be
yeah.
really cool. It'd be hard.
Some people wanted some like lenticular art animation in it too, but yeah, I think I could look into getting some kind of 3D
That'd be really
stuff.
rad.
That would be
Awesome, man. Well, congrats on the book, Kickstarter, and all that, and yeah, I look forward to seeing it for sure. So,
yeah, man, super cool. And you know, if people want a Neo Geo book, they just gotta make their voice heard, because I definitely listen to people's requests as I'm creating new stuff.
Next is the CDI book, correct?
CDI book. I mean, if no people want it, I mean, I'm doing a little mini book on LJN crap NES games.
Nice.
I am doing a little book on that.
That is funny. Cool.
That'll be
All
fun.
right, bro. It was good chatting with you. I'll put some links below, and we'll see you guys soon. Game on. Bye.